Hi everyone, it's Friday and it's the 24th, and I am just absolutely blessed to have you with me this evening. Not regular programming this evening, a program that's been a few days in the making for perhaps some obvious and I think explained reasons over the past several days. But tonight, to the best of my abilities and for what I can do with just a mere half hour, an honor and tribute to our friend and our captain, Carter Connolly of the McGoffin County Rescue Squad. We'll hear from some of his closest friends, and we'll get a bit of a history lesson, if you will, and a little bit of a look a little deeper inside to the man who, at some point or other, has come to our rescue or that of someone we love, in a small or large fashion. He lived his life on call. He lived for his true family first, and for his squad, and for his county a very close second. Carter graduated high school here in McGoffin County back in '67. He ultimately went on to the University of Kentucky, got a Bachelor of Arts in Early Education. He was a teacher. He was a firefighter. He worked as a case manager for aging services and our older folks here in McGoffin County for about 16 years. Then he had numerous other positions that he held. Each job he had something or everything to do with helping our community. And of course, he will forever be remembered, not just for being one of the people who had the foresight to create the McGoffin County Rescue Squad, but to be its leader, literally, for the rest of his life. With one of the founding members, David Gardner's earliest recollection of Carter being when they were both 5 or 6 years old in the Methodist Church, then growing up, playing football, and being there early on for the beginning of the McGoffin County Rescue Squad.
Talking about him in the last couple of days, I've not heard anybody call him Big C. Maybe they have. Maybe you've heard him say that. But we remember from early days, Carter was a good-sized guy, and I think used it to his advantage, but that's how he sort of became his name too. But anyway, so yeah, Carter and I were in college together, but basically we got involved with Clyde Harvey, doing fighting fires, forest fires. It's probably the best shape I've ever been. But we were, and then Carter and I, out of that, became fire wardens, and then I guess it evolved into the next point is just getting together and figuring out how to do the rescue squad.
Earliest days I can remember Carter Connolly back whenever I was 16 years old and he was 23 years old at that time. 22 years old, and we was volunteer fire personnel on the Syersville Fire Department. We started the McGoffin County Rescue Squad in August of 1974.
It was in May of that same year, while Carter was teaching and serving as a firefighter, that he actually got his EMT certification. He's actually been recertified every 2 years since for the last 47 years. And in August of 1974, Bob Dixon was fire chief. Carter and Bob, Captain Graham Burchett with the Floyd County Rescue Squad, Dave Gardner, Paul Howard, Whistle Arnett, and a number of other very vital people to the formation of the McGoffin County Rescue Squad came together with local officials, with 10 of the first members all chipping in $10 apiece to get them started.
We put together a little bit of money and bought an old peanut van. I call it a little step van, 6-cylinder step van, for $500, and all the rescue equipment we had was a crowbar, and that's what we used until we started getting some money and some funds, fundraisers and stuff. Our biggest fundraiser that we had came from Floyd County Rescue Squad. The first time we had an auction, one of the auctions that you see every year in May, he came over with a box of Twinkies. And he said, if you people are really interested in helping your rescue squad, you'll bid on this box of Twinkies. And it went for, I want to say, $300 or $400 for a box of Twinkies. And that's what got everything started.
As they are today, the Floyd County Rescue Squad then was considered one of the premier units in Kentucky and much further beyond, formed, of course, in response to the tragic bus accident in 1958 where all those students were killed, drowned in the Big Sandy River. And with assistance from their captain, Graham Burchett, and others, the McGoffin County Rescue Squad media auction began and has become a local cultural phenomenon, if you will, more than just a fundraiser, for over 40 years.
And so we tried to emulate them. We tried to follow what they had done, and with hopes of creating that here. And one of the ways they raised money was a radio auction. And well, at the time, we didn't have a radio station. We didn't have a TV station. We didn't have anything other than a newspaper. And we came up with this notion of listing the items in the newspaper consecutive weeks, and then people would see. So the first week would be no value on them, and the second week we would put in the paper what the highest bid was at that point. And then we had a schedule of when we would be here at the this squad building here. This is the first squad building. We would be here and take phone calls. And that's what we did. People would call up on a particular night and say, I'll give you this for this amount. And we would list it. Then after 3 weeks, whoever had the highest bid. So we went that way for a couple years.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Carter's influence in the auction was, he really worked it. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the guys got out and would go get the stores and pick up the products and stuff like that, but Carter put a lot of time and effort into that auction. He numbered every item, he listed every item, he communicated with the radio, television, newspaper. He worked with all them. He was pretty much an upfront kind of guy, handled the whole thing. That was his baby. And Carter, as you well know, enjoyed loving being on the camera. He loved being on camera. Every now and then he'd get a little dry throat and a little tired, and then he'd let me get on there, and I'd help him out, or Tim Sayer, one of us, would get on and help him out during the auction. But for the most part, he wanted to be on it. He wanted to be, like I said, the squad was his baby. He loved it. He lived and breathed it.
And looking back, it's important to remember that the McGoffin County Rescue Squad isn't the only thing that is here or exists because of the support of Carter Connolly. He couldn't have done the rescue squad alone, without a doubt. But he was also a driving force behind so many other things in our community that are here to protect us and to keep us safe. Perhaps, for example, one of the prequels to seeing that we now have a 911 service was back in 1973 when Carter joined a group of friends to create the McGoffin County CB Club. And after they started meeting, they started talking about handling emergency services in McGoffin County through their communications. A revelation that Carter and the squad had, again, after seeing some of our earliest and worst floods.
Eventually, the squad started maturing, and another story that I've seen is, and attributed to Carter, is at some point we were growing up a little bit, and the story is that we went through a flood, and we just decided, wait a minute, we got to get together, we got to figure out what we did well and what we did wrong, or what could help us. And at that point is when we started maturing, I think, in that we sat down and we said, these are our priorities, these are what we've got to get in place. And the story that I've read, and it's true, is that we decided we got to be able to talk to each other when we're out doing a response.
And it was actually in 1978, not just that the squad was able to buy the property in Dixie and build the original McGoffin County Rescue Squad building, but also, and I certainly remember the flood of 1978 as a small child, one of our worst, and the rescue squad at that time didn't have any way to communicate with each other. They didn't have radios. But in 1980, with some coal severance funds, the squad secured a base that they would use for decades and two-way radios for their members, with another form of communication coming decades later that none of us could live without today.
Back in 1994, Carter, along with local government officials at that time, saw the need for a 911 service. I remember as a child not having 911, my great grandfather died, you had to know the number to the rescue squad, or you had to know the number to the ambulance. They would come, and then they would call for somebody else. It was a rigmarole. So Carter, having been with the rescue squad since the 70s, he knew that 911 was an essential service for the citizens of McGoffin.
As Scott said, it was in '94 that Carter started himself going after grants, and along with the support of local officials, within only a few months, formed 911. It was officially established, and like everything else Carter did, he followed it through. Not just the formation, but was still, until the day he drove himself to the emergency room with COVID, a major resource for dispatchers, as he always had been.
Carter was like a mother hen over 911. Everything at that point of the beginning stages, he would make sure that we had all the right training. He made sure that we got scheduled in for Richmond. Forever, even after it was established for years, the main number online with the Department of Criminal Justice was the rescue squad line. So he was a contact. He was the dude that they called. And so he got us all trained. I was one of the original 5 dispatchers that was hired in 1994. And then actually in 1995 March, McGoffin County 911 opened its doors. So what happened at that point is you see some of the stuff that we've got right here. And in there we've got 6 screens, we've got 3 screens in here, we've got keyboards. There's no computers back then, so we didn't have any computers. We had 4 radios on a shelf, and then we had 4 telephones. And one of those, the rescue squad radio, was an old green, Army green GE radio that probably belonged to the rescue squad. I know it come from Carter because it had rescue squad wrote on it. And we used that to contact the rescue squad for years and years. And I think just before we moved over here, actually, I gave that back to Carter. I had it in storage. But he would watch over some of those early days. We were all new. We didn't know anything about 911. We went through the training, so we learned that. But as far as the county, I was a 20-year-old kid. I didn't know anything about the head of the river, 33, 36, but Carter did. So we would call him, we'd ring his phone off the hook, day and night. But he loved it. And he really took care of 911 for so many of those early years. And even having worked with him for 26 years now, he's never refused to call for me, never. I've seen him on numerous calls, from floods, ice storms, tornadoes, to somebody needing motorist assist, somebody deliver medication. There was never a call that he said no to. And I'm pretty sure that you can't replace that. So.
And that is something that we can all agree on.
Professionally, Carter's dedication to the squad, that I admired that greatly all through the years that I've known him. And I've never met anybody else in McGoffin County that has been that committed to something. We all commit to things, and then after a while we lose interest in them and drop out. But now Carter was committed to and that has to be admired. Committed for 47 years to this thing. He lived, breathed, and ate the McGoffin County Rescue Squad. I just really don't know how you can explain it. He was a hometown hero, a hometown treasure. And don't get me wrong, I know Carter wasn't a saint, and I know he rubbed a few people the wrong way. But when you're on a scene and you don't understand what's going on, and somebody tells you to get out of the way, you might get your feelings hurt. And that's happened quite a few times, and people, will holler, "I'm not going to support them because he told me to, made me move," or something like that. But the equipment getting there to get to that person and getting the ambulance into that person are the main priorities when we're on a scene. And that was Carter's main priority, was helping that person and making sure that the emergency vehicles and services had access to them. And if you pulled up and was an onlooker and just wanting to be nosy, he didn't care if you was his best friend. He would tell you to get out of the way.
And Bill's right. When I spoke during Carter's services, told a couple of the more humorous stories to that note. humorous now after they're over. But I also stressed afterwards that we all realized where some of those cringeworthy moments may have come from. They didn't come from anything but a very deep-seated 100,000% dedication and mindset to, as Bill said, securing that scene and making sure his squad and those injured and everyone around was safe and doing exactly what their job was and what they needed to be doing to get help to those who needed it. He had that dedication to his rescue squad. He as well had that dedication, of course, to his family who allowed him to give of his life to Magoffin County.
Wanting your county to be better than what it is, and he just had the will, and behind every good man is a good woman. And he got a hold of Vivian, and Vivian supported him all the time. You could see them disasters, our disasters, floods, tornado now, but most of our stuff was floods, and we have the auction, but Vivian would be right there with him day in and day out. And so she was a valuable part of this organization that he developed. It's his rescue squad.
Most women want to know why you running off, why you going, why you doing. And as far as Vivian was concerned, if it had something to do with squad, 9 times out of 10 she was in the car with him going to it too. Her and the boys, both the kids. I mean, they grew up, they saw what their dad done, and they kind of followed in his footsteps. They were both members of the squad at one point in time, and both participated quite a bit in helping with us.
What year did you become an EMT, Robbie? 6 years ago. What's your number? 58109. That means Robbie Connolly is the 58,109th EMT in the state of Kentucky. 6 years ago, it would have been 2008. I became an EMT in 1995, and my number is 38,267. What's your number, Dad?
1717. 1717. An EMT for 47 years to serve his community. A tradition for the Connolly family, one of many for Carter.
Oh, that goes back 51 years. I counted up. He worked for Ashland Oil during the summer, and my dad and his dad worked for Ashland Oil, and Carter was on the summer program. And my dad was a big UK fan, and we always listened to it on the radio. Kaywood Lefford, no, never was on TV, but one day Dad come home from work and he said, I got us 2 tickets to go to the UK ball game. First ball game I'd would ever have to attend. And I said, well, how'd you get tickets? He said, Carter Connolly got them for us. Said, Carter's going to school down there, and he worked the summer, and he called me up and said, John B., do you want 2 tickets? And I said, we do, sure do. And so we went down and met Carter. First time I'd ever seen him. Took us to the ball game, and I think we took him out to eat, which that was, you know, how that is.
Yeah, whether it was food, music, dancing, yes, dancing, fun, and most certainly football and his Wildcats. Carter was there 24/7, always on the clock. But he always loved having a good time whenever the opportunity arose.
We watched the football games together with a couple of friends that in my neighborhood every Saturday night. I started being a member of the football crew probably about 10, 12 years ago. And as time moved on and I got elected judge, and I've said it earlier too, and some others have, when UK scores a touchdown, Carter runs out of the garage where we're at, and even if it's 40 below, he raises the door up and freezes to death in there to flip his lights on his car and turn the fight song on. And for a long time he would do a dance. But as his hips and knees started giving out on him recently, he quit that. But I think it may have been the year before last, he ran out to do that, and they threw a flag. So the touchdown got called back, and I was hollering, ho, 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 and he had already started it, so he had to stop. So the very next time they run a touchdown, he ran out and he stopped, and he turned and he said, Judge. And so that he could run it. So after that, every time from then on, before he would flip it, he would spin around and point at me to see if I was going to say no good or a touchdown or whatever. So, yeah, it's he's going to be missed a lot. There's like I said, there's a personal side to everybody, and you know, the personal side to him, a lot of people don't know is what I meant to say, and he's going to be missed. He was a card.
We got it. 85-80.
Now Kentucky will advance to play Saturday. Now for Debbie.
Sit down, Larry. Where it at? Where's my hat at? Floppy hat. Go Big Blue!
He's always calling me, you know, I need some Narcan, Pete, or, you know, or something like that. Or if it's going to rain, he'd say, I'll be watching. I'll let you know if it's going to get out of the banks up here. We might have to, you know, get the nursing home evacuated. You know, he's always on top of things, and I'll miss a lot of that. I'd pull into the squad building and talk to him a lot, and he'd always bring me the alumni book. He got an alumni magazine every month, and he always made sure after he read it, he'd say, I'm bringing that magazine to you, and he'd bring the alumni magazine by and drop it off. And I remember when me and him always read the Herald Leader, you know, when it came out when it was weekly, and then it went to Sundays, and he'd always go somewhere and get one. I don't know where he got it, and he'd always drop it off to me in the afternoon on Sunday afternoon. I'd have it. If I wasn't at home, it'd be on my front porch. So I could read the paper too, and I'll always remember that about him. But we had a lot of good times together. I don't know. It's you know, he was fun to be around. He was the life of the party, really. To me, I could just look at him and laugh anyway. But you know, when he done his little UK dance when they scored a touchdown or something like that, or when they won a game, he can get up and dance around. He was always he was enjoyable to be around. I loved him to death.
No, Carter by no means was not a wealthy man. And he, and by no means did he ever take any monetary gain from the rescue squad. None of us are paid. We're all a non-profit organization. We received no money for that. He done this because he loved the county. Carter had opportunities. He could probably went on to be something else and made more money and had a better life, better living and everything. But he loved serving the people of Magoffin County and taking care of Magoffin County because he loves the community. Only second to his wife, Vivian. I mean, his family came first, which is all of our priorities, our families. And then the county was his next top priority.
Oh, and I've had people say, well, we got a little something, didn't he? No, he's all volunteer, 100% volunteer out there. That's why he was so passionate about it that, you know, that he had the auction, that he was constantly calling the judge's office, wanting money for things, and we were constantly looking for that money. In fact, we just recently made the purchase of a new squad vehicle, and it'll be here in October, and it saddens me quite a bit that he won't be here to see the unveiling of that big brand new truck, because he has, since day one when I took my oath of office, he'd been on my back wanting me to get him a new truck. And those are not cheap. We've had to get about $100,000 to get the vehicle and get the equipment and everything that goes along with it. Now that I've got the funds and the COVID, it's just taken a long time to get it in. And like I said, it'll be a bittersweet day when we do the unveiling in October, hopefully, if it gets here. But I think he'll be looking down smiling. And we gotta make sure that we keep the rescue squad going. We got to have that confidence in our community that somebody's coming that's going to be qualified, that there'll be people on the scene. And we can know one person in this county, as you said, can be Carter Connolly. We got to pull the people together, and it'll be various people to make sure that this happens.
He wanted to help everybody, whether it be somebody up the head up Punching Creek on Route 7 or down at Bloomington. You know, it didn't matter where you were and what your name was. You know, he didn't care. He just he had a big heart, and a very big heart. And I don't know how anybody will ever replace him with his generosity and his camaraderie. He was just, I mean, he was a unique individual, a very unique individual. He took the rescue squad very serious. He took his job very serious with the rescue squad, and He could be having fun and having a good time watching the ball game, but if the tones went off and he was called out, he left. I mean, there's no mistaking that he was the man when it came to getting to help people with the squad. He was the man.
I can't tell you the number of times that I called him when nobody else. I would drop every tone in the county. I mean, I needed help from something, even if it was something little, like somebody just falling down and needing help getting up. So many times I've dropped the tones, you know, even in the late at night, day, whenever, nobody else would answer because people work. Volunteers have jobs, you know, they have lives and they've got to support their families. You drop tones once, sometimes you drop tones twice. And then you hear the phone ring and you look on the caller ID and you see Carter Connolly. Hey, did anybody ever answer that tone there? No. Yep, I'll get out of the house, sir. I'm getting up here. I'll be out there in just a few minutes, sir. I'll see what I can do. And so he was a man for the people at all times of the day and night. And like I said, that to me is the most astonishing thing that I don't see how can ever be replaced. So.
You could say that Carter's heart was in the right place at all times. He meant the best for the county. The loss of Carter Connolly to the county will be felt. I mean, because it's going to take every one of us at the rescue squad to pull together and to become a Carter Connolly. It'll take all of us to replace him. Because he was the man. He didn't depend on anybody else to do things. He was there to do it. He ran on everything. The only time he depended on us is like if he had to be out of town or something. And then as soon as he got back into town, he was right back to doing his thing at the rescue squad.
Carter's always been one that I think was well respected professionally, not just here but across the region and wherever he was, because he was very knowledgeable. He was very matter of fact about it, very passionate about what he done. Sometimes his passion may have rubbed people the wrong way, but I can tell you that I don't know very many people in McGoffin County wouldn't want him on the scene if they was in a bad wreck or had an injury or something that needed emergency services. You know, there's a thing called servant leadership, and there's self-serving leadership. Carter was a servant leader. He was out there. He was a leader of the rescue squad. He was a leader in our community. He made sure that run an all-volunteer unit out there. It's not a paid service. You know, that speaks volumes, that it's went almost 50 years, and we got to make sure that it goes 50 and 50 and 50 more.
There's no way that you could ever replace him. There's no person that even come close to put the amount of time and effort and respect for the job. I don't know who will step up and even come close to doing half the amount of work that he did for the rescue squad and develop it into what it is today. Like I said, it's when we first started, we had a peanut van and a pry bar, and now probably I don't know what the inventory is out there now, but I want to say somewhere around $2 million worth of inventory that it has grown to, and that's all from donations and hard work of Carter Connolly.
I've told a couple of folks in the last couple of days while we reminisced, Carter did it for the community. Carter did this because this is what he wanted to do. You know, you can't do it for money. You couldn't do it because somebody talked you into it. You had to do what Carter did because that was his core, that was his gut. And so Carter, as sad as we are for Carter, Carter lived the life that he wanted to live, and we all benefited from it. And I think that's important for everybody. He cared about everybody, but in the end, Carter lived the life that he wanted to live.
Carter and I were just talking a few minutes ago, and I asked him a question, and he had a very interesting answer. How many times have you heard the phrase Y2K?
And then then there's me. I credit a lot of things in my life to Carter, helping with this show over the last few decades, encouraging me to get my first responder certification and other training, being a member of the McGoffin County Rescue Squad, and learning by his example. Wonderful, cherished, dear friend that my family has known forever, that I, of course, really came to know well, always knew of, but came to know well just days after I started this show back in November of 1998. Carter, of course, one of my very first interviews and a regular on the show. He loved being on camera. He did, as someone said earlier. But he, perhaps more than I, sought me out with the news program because he saw it as another avenue, another medium, another way to get important and sometimes life-saving information out to our community. He was constantly, the years I have shared with him will forever be cherished and never be forgotten. He was everything that everyone has described and so much more that none of us can. And of all of the ways that Carter could have died, I don't think any of us saw this one coming. But if I leave you with a couple of things between now and the end of the show, know that if Carter were still here with us, he would be telling us all what we need to do to keep us safe.
Take it serious. Carter took it serious. Carter was one of the first ones that got the vaccine. I mean, I was number one, and he called and he said, "Can I get my?" And I said, "Yes. You're very vital to this community." And even when he was in the hospital, on the breathing machine and all, he could barely talk. But I talked to him a couple of times, and one of the times I did call, he said, "When can I get my boost?" I mean, he was looking forward. He wanted to get it, but he knew how important it was for vaccinations, and he knew how important it was. He's seen people that he loved in the hospital and with the disease, and we talked a lot about how I guess some people just don't take it as serious as they should. They think it's just something that's going to come and go, but it don't. And and right now I don't think there's a family in McGoffin County that hasn't been affected by COVID, and he knew that. And he was adamant about it, about vaccine, and if anybody gets anything, you can get your vaccine. Because Carter, I know he had health issues, but when he got it, it seemed like it was a gradual decline with him. It didn't happen all at once. I know he's in the hospital for a couple of weeks, but he just continually kept getting worse and worse. But even though that time he was getting worse and he was getting weaker, he was fighting. He was a fighter. He didn't give up. But like I say, he was always wanting to ask about when can I get my boost, and that just says something about Carter. I mean, he knew it's important. And if anybody out there doesn't have the vaccine, look at the deaths we've had. Not just Carter. I know Carter was the one that's touched my heart, but we've had 10 this month, and that's unacceptable. Unacceptable when we've got the vaccine and we've got the means to stop this thing, and people just will not heed the call to get that vaccine.
And the last thing I want to leave you with, actually the last thing that Carter is going to leave you with, is something he said back when we were celebrating the 30th anniversary of the McGoffin County Rescue Squad. So if you're looking for a way to honor the life and sacrifices he made for us, then I hope we will all keep this in our hearts.
All the tales, stories of the equipment, the first boats we bought, the people stood over there and raised money on the parking lot so we could buy a boat there at Prestonsburg. Oh, I don't know, as they come to me sometimes, but I'm just the one person who did have a dream. Hopefully, and I've had other people to recognize that dream and want to be a part of it, and that's why you all are here, and when we have members that want to share in that dream, be a building of something for your community, to being a part of trying to make a better place to live for you, your children, and future generations. And that's what it's all about.